We saw in the previous video in the series that what people understand as grammar is a fairly traditional type of grammar. But we also believe, no problem, we all have an internal grammar that we use when we speak, so grammar rules are pretty obvious, intuitive even. But are they? Can you rely on your intuition when you write? Let's talk about the times that standard grammar actually messes up with your grammar. Hi, welcome to Snap Language. My name is Mark Franco. Grammar is still influenced by the notion that it should reflect not how language is used, but some pure form of formal literary language. At the same time, we know that as speakers of a language, we have an internal grammar that we're constantly drawing on as we speak or write. We call it an intuitive grammar. It's when someone asks, why do we say it this way and not that way? And we say, I don't know, it just sounds right. Until our intuition falls apart. Oh no. Let's talk about hypercorrection first. So, a lot of us want to sound educated because, that's how grammarians market their product. So, we want to use our best standard grammar. But sometimes these rules are so detached from the intuitive grammar we have that it leads to hypercorrection. Hypercorrection happens when you don't quite understand a grammar rule or when the grammar rule isn't very clear, so you end up overcorrecting yourself. A good example of this is, how many times did you say something like, me and my friends were playing games and someone corrected you? My friends and I were playing games. Well, you end up understanding that you should always say, my friends and I. Then you say, between you and me, and you think, oh no, it's you and I, you and I. Then you correct yourself to between you and I, which is incorrect in standard grammar. So you start out fine, second guess your grammar, misapply a standard grammar rule, and end up with a non-standard construction. That's hypercorrection. What this shows is that standard grammar is in conflict with our internal grammar. It's messing up your grammar. You may be thinking, this pronoun issue is pretty simple, right? Come on, it's pretty straightforward in English. The subject pronouns are I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. When used as an object, they're me, you, him, her, and so on. Who brought the cookies? Me. Me or I? I brought the cookies, not me brought the cookies. Oh, you might as well answer, I did. Me did. Can you imagine a police lineup and the victim says, that's he. It's he whom I saw kick my cat. Come on. Here's another grammar rule. You use and before vowels, right? An apple, an eagle, an intelligent dog. Well, then you write this. You quickly think, oh wait, there's no vowel here, and you overcorrect it to this, which you should have left alone because now it's incorrect. Well, but some grammar rules are not that bad. For example, the present tense in English is pretty straightforward. Only the third person has an S at the end of the verb, and that's it. So you'd say, I have a degree in linguistics. My friend has a degree in linguistics, and that's that. Well, how would you say that in one of my best friends? Easy, you're talking about one of your best friends. The verb doesn't agree with what comes after the preposition. The subject is one, so you'd say, one of my best friends has a degree in linguistics. Come on, that's easy. Okay, how about this? None of my friends. This can actually be both have or has. If none means not any, you use a plural verb. Or you can regard none as not one and use a singular verb, unless you have something in the sentence that tells you that none refers to a plural subject, as in, none of the students have finished their work on time, because now their refers back to none of them. So they haven't finished their work. Okay, how about this then? Well, the mayor and his wife means they, so the verb is plural. But you'd also say or write, the mayor as well as his family, were invited? Nope. The way I remember this is that as well as puts this part of the sentence sort of like in parentheses. So you'd say the mayor as well as his family endorsed his friend, not their friend. And now a word from our sponsor.
Snap language.
Is 1% singular or plural? How about 20 or 30%? Only 1% of the class hates Professor X. Only 1% of the students hate Professor X. Let that sink in. So the verb can agree with what comes after the preposition after all. The majority of my students loves linguistics. Oh, so here the subject is the majority. Only 30% of the student body, yeah, we just saw that. Now you say agrees with Professor X's class policies. Only 30% of the students agree with them. Fractions. 1/3 is singular, right? It's only 1/3, not 2/3. 1/3 of the pie was missing. 1/3 of the pies were missing. If you go by standard grammar, you should use fewer for countable nouns and less for uncountable nouns. So you'd say less coffee or less information, but fewer people or fewer cars. So you should have 15 items or fewer to use the express lane of the store. Well, because you can count items. How about this? I never spent less or fewer than $100. Can you count dollars? $1, $2, $3. Nope, you should say less than $100 because now you're expressing an amount. So you say 2 hours is not enough and 2 blocks isn't too far to walk, even though you can count hours and blocks. So the grammar rules about countable and uncountable nouns, it needs some work. Here's a challenge for you. Can you find anything wrong with this sentence? Well, according to standard grammar, that is. I'll leave the sentence in the descriptions. In the comments, let me know if you think there's nothing wrong. If you think there's something wrong, explain the correction. The first correct comment will win the Grammar Geek of the Year award. A little disclaimer here. This was just supposed to be a fun video. The main point is to show that standard grammar is not always very intuitive. I'm in no way advocating that standard grammar is wrong or that it shouldn't exist. There are times people take enforcing grammar correctness to some weird extremes, and then many people jump in to bash grammarians in defense of descriptivism. This feud between prescriptivism and descriptivism can sometimes be fun to watch, but, well, that's the topic for the next video. It's a bit controversial, so who's bringing the popcorn? Me! I am me! Please like and share this video with other language lovers, and make sure you click the bell button when you subscribe so you're notified when new videos come out. Me. I am. Me. Me. Bye.